Hello, I'm Chris from TechSpert, and today I'm reviewing the stupidly good value Poco X6 Pro. Now this offers the usual incremental spec upgrades versus last year's X5 Pro, but that specs list is still proper drill-worthy, including a gorgeous 1.5K AMOLED display. You got MediaTek's beef-tastic Dimensity 8300 Ultra chucked in there, a massive 5000 mAh battery with 67-watt turbocharge support, all kinds of tasty tech. So let's do a full unboxing, and then through the magics of video editing, we're going to whip forward in time a full week, or at least you are. I'm going to have to live out every painful minute of it, and I'll deliver my full Poco X6 Pro review. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So what has Poco wodged inside of this delightfully yellow box? Besides the Poco X6 Pro 5G, are we still honestly doing the whole 5G thing? Well, you've also got a 67-watt power adapter bunged in that box, plus a hot bit of USB cable action. And hip hip huzzah, Poco has also thrown in a condom case to keep your fresh new X6 Pro safe from harm. So a most delightful set of paraphernalia, but now let's actually check out the Poco X6 Pro. So let's begin this review with a squint at the design of the Poco X6 Pro, and I've got to say this is one of the areas where I'm least impressed with this phone. From the front it's all good, no real surprises at all. You got pretty skinny bezels surrounding that display, which is a massive relief because at 6.67 inches this is already a big boy. All I can say is thank God for that one-handed mode. And wrapped around the edge of the Poco X6 Pro, it is sadly just a plastic frame, but it does have this lovely metallic sheen and it is slightly textured to the touch as well, so it could almost fool you into thinking it's metal. As for that arse end, well apparently you've got a choice of either plastic or fake leather. Sadly mine is the placky one. And I swear to God, that shiny surface is just an absolute magnet for everything grim. I'm talking greasy fingerprints, floating muck, bodily fluids. Actually just scrap the bodily fluids bit, the less said about that the better. And it doesn't seem to matter quite how much you scrub the Poco X6 Pro, it's immediately caked in crud again just like moments later. That's certainly not helped here by the dark finish. Now the Poco X6 Pro does come in a small selection of colours. You got black, grey, otherwise that distinctive iconic Poco yellow. And yeah, those are Poco's actual colour names as well, no pointless fancy pants monikers like Mystical Starfield Black or Infinite Grey or Dehydrated Piss Yellow. Oh, and that plastic arse is susceptible to scratching as well, not that you can probably tell through all the muck. But yeah, quite a few light nicks down here at the bottom edge already after just over a week. So yeah, condom case, very good idea for the Poco X6 Pro to help protect it and also just keep off all the filth. However, thankfully up front you've got Gorilla Glass 5 and you've also got a screen protector slapped on there, and the Poco X6 Pro is IP54 splash resistant, so pretty useful if you happen to live somewhere where the weather could never really be described accurately as dry. Now to unlock the Poco X6 Pro you've got an in-display optical fingerprint sensor which has given me zero aggro these past few days. And yes, a good bit of face unlock action in backup as well, which works pretty well even in low light conditions. As for the software side of things, well this is actually the UK debut for Xiaomi's Hyper OS, which replaces the old MiUI launcher, which we all know and possibly love, possibly don't get on with very well at all. It's kind of the Marmite of Android launchers. But yes, Hyper OS replaces MiUI while also resembling it really f***ing closely. In fact, when you first come to use Hyper OS, it kind of feels like that time back in primary school when your mate Kev decided to change his name to Captain Mega. I mean, Captain Mega, great name, can't fault it, but unfortunately he's still the same smelly old twat who likes to pick his arse and flick the debris at Sally Johnson during maths class. Most of the improvements for HyperOS definitely happening behind the scenes. It does feel really smooth with the exception of a couple of wee judders here and there, and so far it does seem to be energy efficient, but more on that when I bang on about battery life. But anyway, I have actually shot a full HyperOS tips and tour video, which should be live imminently once I actually get around to editing it, to remove out all the bits where I say naughty words or expel gas violently, just mumble incoherently, and basically get it down to a really tight 37 seconds of footage. But here on the Poco X6 Pro, I do have a few wee grumbles, one of which being the sheer amount of crapware stacked on this thing. I swear it's getting even worse than before. So when you get this phone, you will want to spend a while just going through, just deleting all of the bullshit that you don't really need or want. And while you can't get rid of absolutely everything that's chucked on here against your will, thankfully most of it can be deleted. It's a case of taking a few minutes to actually bother doing it. It's also slightly annoying how you don't have a proper always on display because it just buggers off after 10 seconds. You have to keep tapping the screen to get it to show up. In other words, it's not actually an always on bloody display, is it? But yeah, that's the only option you've got. Display it for 10 seconds after tapping and that is it. But at least I'll stop moaning on when it comes to the software updates because Xiaomi is finally nailing it in that department. The Poco X6 Pro will enjoy 3 OS updates and 4 years of security updates. Although the regularity of those security updates after the first couple of years probably not going to be the best. Oh, and also the base Poco X6 Pro comes with 256 gigs of storage stuffed inside, which is double what you get in a lot of really expensive flagship phones. And my review model actually comes with double that, 512 gigs. And not much of that is taken up with the system files either, so you should never have to expand that memory, which is just as good because there's no microSD memory card slot here. Now the Poco X6 Pro sports a 6.67-inch AMOLED display like many mobiles these days. And it's a pretty premium panel as well for something that's been slapped on a budget-friendly mid-ranger. That resolution has been boosted to 1.5K, which is sharper than the Full HD effort on the Poco X5 Pro. So even though it's big, those visuals remain nice and crisp. It's not one of the brightest smartphone displays around. It hits just over 1000 nits when needed, which thankfully is good enough for outdoor use. You won't be squinting to see what's going on. Those colours are automatically calibrated to match the environmental lighting. You can boost them with the vivid mode if you want. And top-notch contrast as well. You've actually got support for HDR10 and Dolby Vision streaming on this bad boy. And the refresh rate does top off at 120Hz, but it only steps between 60 and 120, that's it. It certainly doesn't drop as low as some premium panels, but at least that refresh rate can be automatically tweaked for you depending on what you're up to. And you've actually got a pretty respectable stereo speaker setup slapped here on the Poco X6 Pro.
Year stretching out before us, packed to the bollocks with wonder and opportunity and dozens of new smartphones boasting minor spec upgrades over their 2023 counterparts.
So as you can hopefully tell, they're nice and loud when you punch up to that top of volume. Certainly no worries if you live in quite a noisy household. That clarity actually stays pretty strong. No headphone jack as per usual, sadly, but I've had absolutely no issues with the Bluetooth streaming on this thing to various Bluetooth speakers, Bluetooth headphones. And you do have full Dolby Atmos support as well with a good bit of equalizer action. So now let's have a proper shufty at the performance. And the Poco X6 Pro is powered by MediaTek's Dimensity 8300 Ultra. And that's quite a big old upgrade versus the aging Snapdragon 778G, which was stuffed inside of last year's Poco X5 Pro. Now this is an upper mid-range platform launched just a couple of months ago, and it's the first time I've seen it stuffed inside of a smartphone. Good news is it's certainly beefy enough to handle anything you chuck at it. Genshin Impact didn't jerk and judder very much at all, even when I bumped it up to the absolute highest graphics settings at 60 frames per second. And that's especially true when I yanked out the game turbo bar and switched on the performance mode and the old power boost. Even when that action got a wee bit intense, the game still felt responsive, helped by the display's crazy good touch sampling. And no real worries if you like to spend all evening gaming, because the Poco X6 Pro only got ever so slightly warm even after a good hour or so of Genshining in, which was probably at least partially down to Xiaomi's Liquid Cooled Tech 2.0 working its magic. And yes, Game Turbo delivers all of the gaming features you know and love from MiUI, including some quite random shenanigans. One of the quirkiest tools in this is certainly the voice changer.
You too could sound like an internet sex pest.
Or a squirrel off his tits on meth.
No real upgrades here for the battery tech, however. The Poco X6 Pro once again has a 5000 mAh capacity cell stuffed inside. Can't really complain though, because the Poco X6 Pro finished most even long intensive days with at least a third of that battery life remaining. The only time I actually managed to get it down into the power saver mode was when I did Skyping for a good hour, used the camera absolutely tons, but even with 6-7 hours of screen on time, you'll still have plenty of juice remaining in that tank. And also you got 67 watt wired charging support here, so if you need to give the Poco X6 Pro a quick boost at any point, well, no worries, won't take long at all. but as usual, no support for the wireless charging. And let's finish up this Poco X6 Pro unboxing and review with a squint at that slightly grimy camera tech. And what you've got here is a 64 meg primary shooter with optical image stabilization built in. Don't get too excited about the rest of the camera hardware though, because you've got a basic bog standard 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens and a pointless macro shooter, huzzah! And yeah, no real surprises with the camera app, which is thankfully easy to use one-handed. You can drag down all the various toggles and features like so. These include the obligatory AI camera shenanigans, which actually comes knocked off by default. Usual timers, voice shutter malarkey, etc. And as expected, the Poco X6 Pro is perfectly capable, if not quite excellent, for shooting those long-lasting memories. Photos are finely detailed if the lighting isn't pants, looking good even when you beam them up to your telly box for the whole family to enjoy. And you can happily zoom right in up to 10 times in total, with quite crisp results until you hit around the 4 to 5 times zoom level. Beyond that, things do get a bit basic. Colours look reasonably lifelike as long as you leave the AI mode switched off, as this does artificially boost brighter tones, which, to be fair, you might like. Crazy contrast isn't a problem here. The Poco X6 Pro does a bang-up job without blowing out those lighter areas, or making everything just look unnaturally bright. But despite the image stabilization, your night snaps will look rather blurred if your hands aren't perfectly still. And the same goes for your subject, so certainly forget about snapping kids or cats in the evening time. As usual, those pics did also look a wee bit soft, and once or twice the focus really struggled to work out what was going on, as if it had downed just as much beer as I had. As for that ultra-wide angle shooter, well, this is fine, no more, no less. It's there if you want to use it. I'd imagine most people will barely touch it, and definitely, again, don't bother in the evenings. Oh, and as always, that macro bollocks can frankly do one. For recording video, the Poco X6 Pro defaults to 30 frames per second at Full HD resolution. You can boost that up to 4K resolution, but you'll only get that 60 frames per second option with Full HD 1080p footage. I kept it at 4K and found it was pretty standard stuff. Stabilization is okay, picture quality is fine, again if you're not recording at nighttime, and the audio pickup is absolutely acceptable too. And finally, you've got yourself a 16 megapixel selfie shooter. And again, this ain't bad if the lighting isn't complete arse, but at nighttime you'll basically look like a bunch of fuzzy pixels. That's how noisy this gets. If you want to shoot a video with that front-facing camera, this maxes out at 1080p. It's either 720p, 1080p, no 4K option, but, you know, reasonably crisp visuals. So that right there, in a succulent wee nutshell, is the fresh new Poco X6 Pro. And a few wee moans aside, I did really enjoy having my sim slapped in there. You know, I'm not a fan of the plastic model, certainly in this black finish, which just shows up all of the muck and grime far too easily. And that camera tech isn't really much of an upgrade at all over previous models. But the performance is banging, the battery life's really good, gorgeous display. And of course, a bit of HyperOS action with some decent software support chucked in there too. So that's what I reckon of the Poco X6 Pro. It'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, yada yada yada. And have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.